Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see.
Welcome back. So I know that I had said in my one video that I would be making like I think I said 4 videos on my life story, and I thought about it and I'm not going to do that. I am going to just do this video right here, just because the things that I will talk about are a little bit graphic, and so I don't want to get into full detail on everything. First of all, I want to say excuse my hair. Honestly, it's like 8:30 in the morning. I just got up and decided to make this video, so I didn't really put myself together too much. I just kind of brushed my hair. But so to start off, I just want to say that if you are a minor, if you're underage, I don't think you should be watching this video, just because the things that I am going to talk about, like I said, are graphic, and so you should have an adult with you, just because I don't think that a minor should be hearing these things. So I'm just going to get right into what I'm going to talk about. So in my last video I said that I needed a break. I was going through things mentally and emotionally. Well, there's a lot of things in my childhood that happened to me that have challenged me mentally a lot, my entire life basically. So I'm just going to start from when I was little up until basically now. So when my mom was 16, she married my dad, had my brother, then had me, and my dad was very abusive. He would hit my mom and just like beat her. He was an alcoholic, he was on drugs, so he would beat my mom. And I was scared of my dad, so whenever he would come home I would run to my room, and if he was like high on drugs or drunk, which he was both most of the time, he would beat my mom. He would hit her to like he would just hit her very bad, that I can hear her crying and screaming for help, and me being like 4 years old, I would be in my room under my sheets crying, telling him to stop, and he would tell me to shut up and just to stop, that if I didn't stop he was going to smash my head against the wall and blow my brains out. That's what my dad used to tell me. After 9 years, my mom finally left him, and they got a divorce, and I don't know what happened in court, but after they got divorced he went to prison. I think he was sentenced to 4 to 6 years or something like that, but I don't exactly know why. But he went to prison, and from prison he would send my mom letters saying that when he got out, he was going to come and kill us. So at this point it had been like over a year. My mom had met someone already, my stepdad. So eventually we moved from Puerto Rico over here to United States, where we are in PA basically. I just don't want to give away really where I'm at, but we came over here, and I was adjusting to one, being in the cold and just learning a whole different language, and just life, you know, adjusting to a new life here. But back when we were in Puerto Rico, after my mom was divorced, we were living at my grandparents' house, her parents' house, and because my mom had met someone, you know, my mom was in her late 20s, so she would leave me and my brother at home and with my grandparents, and she would go out with my stepdad. I don't know, they would go out to dinner and just hang out with family, I guess, because my stepdad is friends with one of my mom's cousins, so like they would all just like hang out. So me and my brother would be home in bed with my grandparents, and this part is kind of hard to talk about, but again, if you're a minor, don't watch this. You know, have adult supervision. But yeah, so at this point I was around 5, I want to say 5 or 6, and I was in my room alone. Me and my mom and my brother shared a room. Like, me and my mom would sleep in one bed and my brother would sleep in the other bed in the same room because the room was big. But my mom wasn't home, and my brother was, probably like watching TV or something, or maybe he was asleep already. I really don't remember, but I was in my bed. I remember being awake because I wanted my mom to be home, and she wasn't. I was worried about her, that she wasn't home. She was fine, but I was worried. And my grandfather, you know, comes in the room, and you know, he says that he's going to say goodnight to me, but then he did things to me that no adult should do to a child, things that no grandfather should do to his granddaughter. He molested me. He made me do things. He did things, and I didn't know that it was wrong. You know, I was 5. I didn't know what was going on. You know, that happened, and then we moved over here to PA, and eventually my grandfather, my grandmother came over. You know, once we were moved and settled and everything, they came for like a visit, or you know, just, yeah, basically for a visit. And they would sleep in my room, and I would sleep in another bed in my brother's room. My brother's room was big, so we would share a room while they were there. And you know, the abuse continued. I think when I was 9, I tried saying something to my mom, and she kind of didn't believe me. And at that moment, I realized that I shouldn't say anything, because I realized how that would tear my family apart. And I didn't say anything anymore. I just kind of like said to myself, well, I'll avoid him, I'll tell him no. But that didn't work. He still got his way. And that happened up until I was like 13, when he was already like in his late 60s, and decided that he wasn't going to travel anymore. He was sick, so he just decided that he wasn't going to travel anymore. So that abuse was done, and I was traumatized by it, but I was okay. Like, it was done, whatever, like, it was done, you know, nothing to worry about anymore. So now when I'm 13, there was this girl that my mom had met They were friends. It was like a mutual give and take friendship, as in my mom is a nail technician and the girl, she does hair. So my mom would do her nails, she would do our hair, and they would just hang out and stuff. And she was married to this guy. They had a kid, and she was married to this guy. And I think that year when I was 13, my parents had given me a computer for my birthday. So it was in my room, and this guy made a move on me. He said, oh, I think you're pretty. I'm having problems with my wife, so I'm going to leave her. I think you're pretty. He baited me in. I was 13. I was innocent, even though I have I had been through so much. I was still innocent in a way. Like, I had never really had a real serious relationship with a guy. I was essentially a virgin. I had never had sex or anything like penetration, other than the molestation that happened. So honestly, I was still a kid and I was still innocent, and I didn't know that he was lying to me, that he was a pedophile, that he was just an asshole, to be honest. I didn't know that. And he eventually, they would come over and he started saying, oh, I'm gonna go to her room, I'm gonna use her computer. And at first it was him just using my computer. So I would be in my room just watching TV, and he would be on the computer and the door would be open, and I'd be like, whatever, that's fine, I'm watching TV, he's doing his own thing. But eventually he started closing the door to my room, and he started watching porn in my room with me in there. And that's how the abuse with him started. He started doing that, and I would tell him, no, stop, and I would leave the room sometimes. And then I felt like I had no safe place in my own home. So I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to say anything, because from my grandfather, I know that they weren't going to believe me, or so I thought they wouldn't believe me. I thought to myself, how can so much be happening to me? Why me? Why are all these things happening to me? Why? Do I deserve this? Why? And so eventually I just kind of gave up on leaving my room, and I would just stay in my room, tell him no, leave the door open, and just watch TV. And sometimes I would tell him, no, you need to get out of my room. But he got his way, and he forced himself on me. He would do things to me, and he would make me do things to him, until eventually one day he raped me. And when it happened, I didn't know how to feel. I didn't really comprehend what had happened. I just knew that it was bad and it should have not happened. But like I said, I kind of said, well, do I deserve this? Why is all this happening to me? And for a few days, maybe a week, I didn't say anything to anyone, until I did. I said something to an adult, and that adult told my mom and his wife. They were out shopping and they came home, and his wife beat me up for it and called me every name on the book. And I was confused. I didn't know what was happening. She was hitting me, and I kind of hit her back, pushed her, what are you doing? What's going on? And she told me, and I was like, what? And I'm like, why is she mad at me? Her husband is a pedophile. Like, why? I was confused, like, what's going on? And I went inside, and I'm obviously like crying, and my stepdad came and smacked me on my head and told me that it was my fault. At this point, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I was sad. And I said, well, maybe I did deserve it. Maybe it was my fault. I don't know. Maybe I just shouldn't be alive. That's what I thought to myself, and I went into full depression mode, and I went into suicidal mode where I would cut myself, and I wanted to die all the time. I mean, I was only 13. This was in early September of 2007. It was 2007, I think. So I was starting 8th grade. I had just started 8th grade. Imagine, 8th grade. I was a child. I didn't know what life was. I didn't know what sex was. I was innocent, you know? So I thought, whatever. They're adults. They're telling me it's my fault. So I guess it's my fault. And, so, I don't know, you know, I was sad, I was depressed, I cut myself, I wanted to die. I would go to school, come home, and just be in my room. Nobody cared. No, honestly, nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared about how I felt. My parents didn't try to get me help, like into a counselor or nothing. They would just tell me how disappointed they were. So I was alone. The only safe place for me was my room, my bed, watching TV, doing homework. I would barely eat, you know. And so, you know, that was that happened, and I was sad, I was depressed, and I was just, you know, like that for years until when I was 17, my grandfather died. And I cried because I was, in a way, yeah, he was my grandfather, and he was sad, and I still didn't fully understand that what he did was wrong. I knew it was wrong, but I don't know. He was the only male figure in my life that, at the time, that showed me love in a way. So because my dad didn't really care about me, so he did those things to me, but he also cared for me in a way. Like, you know, he would tell me that he loved me and stuff, which now that I think about is kind of, it's gross. But at the time I didn't understand. But I cried because I was sad, but I was also very, very, very relieved that the abuse was over. I knew it was completely over, because even though that he wasn't here physically, he would call me and he would try to talk to me in like a sexual way sometimes, and I didn't like that. So I would avoid his calls, I wouldn't answer him, but eventually, you know, sometimes I would answer, but if I answered, I make sure to be around my mom, and I would put the phone on speaker. Like, you know, I got kind of smart with it eventually, so he couldn't talk to me in any type of way. The day that he died, he had called me in the morning. It was early in the morning, I was sleeping, and he called, and I saw he was calling, and I did not answer. Then when I got up, he, excuse me, when I got up, he had called my mom eventually, but then I called him back, excuse me, I'm sorry. That's gross. I called him back from my mom's phone, and we talked for a little bit, and that was that. And then later on that night, my mom got the call that he died. He had another heart attack and died. Whatever, honestly. At this point, I don't care about him in a way. So I was like, whatever. I was sad, but majorly more relieved. And yeah, those are things that have happened in my life that have made me depressed, and why I deal with anxiety, because so many people hurt me in my life. I feel like everyone is out to hurt me, and like something bad is going to happen just because I don't know, I never really felt a lot of compassion in my life. I feel like people kind of knew but didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to tear our family apart. I feel like that's why nobody said anything. Me and my mom now, we don't really have the best relationship. I don't really talk to her a lot. Well, okay, we text almost every day, but it's not the same like it was before. And I really don't go to my mom's house a lot. Like, I live 20 minutes away from my mom, and I don't go to her house a lot. Things just aren't the same because she's still friends with this guy's wife. They're still together, and she's still friends with her, and it just makes me uncomfortable. Like, she's friends with someone who raped her daughter. I don't know. It's not okay to me. But yeah, I obviously, as you know, I'm married, and my husband has dealt with me. I am one messed up person, and he has dealt with me. He has learned how to love me, but he has also, because he loves me, I have learned how to love myself because he's shown me love and he's dealt with me. So I learned how to love myself and know that I'm worth something. And me making this video, I feel like if it can help someone, why not film it and put it out there? If you're going through something like this, someone is sexually abusing you, or hurting you physically, emotionally, anything, say something to an adult, say something to someone you trust. Get help. Don't stay quiet. If you know that someone is going through it, talk to them, get them help. Don't leave them alone. I tried to kill myself because of all this. So don't, just get help. Don't not say anything. It's not okay, and you have to get help. Don't say anything. It's not okay not to say anything is what I'm trying to say. So you need to say something to someone. You need to get help. It's not okay for someone to molest you, rape you, touch you, when you don't want that to happen. It's not okay. So get help. And yeah, just, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to post this video. This is very personal, but like I said, if it can help someone, why not put it out there? I'm just scared of being judged, which I know I probably won't. I mean, there might be people who might leave nasty comments, but I don't know. we'll see if this video goes up. But yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.